Good afternoon, I'm Bakhtiar Sanova and you're watching A News. Let's see the top stories shaping our world. The United States and China extend the tariff truce deadline to November. Donald Trump reveals the details of the meeting with Putin in Alaska, saying that he will not act as a broker to end the war in Ukraine. And wildfires continue to spread across Europe amid heat wave. Trade tensions between the world's two largest economies have just hit pause again. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order extending the tariff truce with China by another 90 days.
The clock was ticking and the tariff deadline for China was looming, but President Donald Trump extended the US-China tariff truce by another 90 days. It now stretches to the 10th of November. The tax hikes had been due to expire on Tuesday at 12:01 a.m. The steep tariffs were set to climb to 145% on Chinese goods and 125% on US products. But instead, rates remain at 30% for Chinese imports and 10% for American goods for the time being. President Trump made the announcement on his Truth Social platform. During a news conference on Monday, he had said, "We'll see what happens," whilst highlighting that his relationship with Chinese President Xi Jinping was good. China said the extension would provide stability to the global economy. But analysts say it's far from smooth sailing. A senior trade official calls it a strategic pause, one that lets retailers stock up without fear of a tariff shock. Market reaction was immediate. Asia's stock markets rallied. The extension has brought breathing room for negotiations around trade imbalances, market access, national security and semiconductors. Trump has suggested that he would meet with Xi before the end of the year if a trade agreement was struck, and he says that he's getting very close.
US President Donald Trump says both Ukraine and Russia may have to give up territory to end the war. He's preparing for high-stakes talks with Vladimir Putin in Alaska later this week, calling it a feel-out session to see if peace is possible.
US President Donald Trump says that both Ukraine and Russia will need to cede territory to end the war. He made the comment ahead of his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. Trump says he'll press Putin to end the conflict, but will not act as a broker, describing the talks as an opportunity to hear what Russia wants. Speaking at the White House on Monday, Trump called the summit a feel-out session and said he would know within the first 2 minutes if progress was possible.
There'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody, to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both. So there's good and there's bad.
European leaders and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky plan to speak with Trump beforehand amid concerns Washington could push Kyiv into concessions. Zelensky has warned that concessions would only embolden Russia, accusing Moscow of preparing new offensives rather than peace.
Today there was also a report from the intelligence and military command on what Putin is counting on and what he is actually preparing for, including military preparations. He is definitely not preparing for a ceasefire or an end to the war.
The Alaska summit comes amid a wave of diplomacy on Russia's side. Putin has spoken with leaders from China, India, Brazil, while Zelensky has sought support from India and Saudi Arabia. Germany will host a virtual meeting of European leaders on Wednesday to coordinate pressure on Moscow before their call with Trump.
Preparations have already started for the Alaska meeting, although the exact location has not yet been confirmed. With security measures already being put in place, residents have expressed mixed views about the high-profile summit.
Local residents in Anchorage in Alaska have mixed views on the upcoming historic meeting between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday. The exact location has not yet been officially announced, but preparations have already begun. People living in the city say they view the day as both an opportunity and a challenge.
Well, I think it's really a fascinating opportunity for Alaska to shine in what we can do for those kind of venues. I think it's a safe venue for both the leaders to come here. We have a huge Air Force base and Army base next to Anchorage, and so I think that it's going to be a safe location for them. I think it'll also be very exciting for Alaska and for the city of Anchorage to be a part of something like that. I think it's fairly historic.
I think it's an opportunity for us to demonstrate against Trump when he's here. We spend a lot of time far away trying to send messages to our congressmen, senators, saying all of the things that we really find to be reprehensible about this administration. And we'll be here demonstrating when he's here.
The Federal Aviation Administration will close the airspace around Anchorage. Traffic delays are also expected, with details on which roads will be closed to be announced in the coming days. For security reasons, state officials and the local mayor have not yet revealed the venue for the summit, and the White House has declined to comment on the matter. Historically, such high-level meetings have been held at airports or military bases. Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson and Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport are considered the most suitable locations.
In Ukraine's frontline city of Kharkiv, an architect has transformed an abandoned dormitory into a lifeline for elderly and disabled residents displaced by war. Our correspondent Fikret Dolukhanov went to see how this big family is surviving and rebuilding hope with volunteers.
Що ми ні на що не претендуємо, і медсестри за цим слідкують.
Коли війна почалась, я взагалі була за кордоном.
When the war began, I was actually abroad on an architectural tour because I'm an architect. But I decided on the very same day the war started to buy a ticket and return to Ukraine to support the army and to support the civilian population. I was back in 3.5 days, and since then I haven't left Kharkiv. In Kharkiv, at first, the city was surrounded by Russian troops, and we had only one road leading to Kiev. Many people were left trapped in their flats, locked inside. I joined forces with other people, about 30 volunteers, to search for these people, rescue them, and get them out of their homes. Then we rented this dormitory. It was in a very neglected state, with no proper facilities. I had a friend who had no legs, and she gave me many phone numbers, because people with such special needs tend to keep in touch with one another. In this way, we found 270 people. Later, we realized we couldn't look after each of them individually. That's when we decided to rent this building. That was on the 20th of March 2022. Step by step, we cleaned the place, brought it into order, and now we have 60 residents here. Over the course of the war, about 300 people have passed through what we call this shelter. We call it a big family because I want these people to feel as though they are part of a large family. These people were born in villages because Ukraine used to be a rural, agrarian country. So we try to recreate for them the atmosphere they had in their childhood. Because, step by step, they become like children again, losing their skills day by day. But they are children without a future. We also try to invite many people to visit them. For example, musicians giving concerts. And we take them to the botanical garden, the zoo, and to church every week. In this way, we also begin to build civil society here, because many volunteers get involved in this work. We start to form friendships, and it becomes a very large and rich community of helpers. This is a huge problem for Kharkiv because we haven't surrendered the city. But it is constantly on the edge, on the front line. We're 20 kilometers from the Russians on one side and 30 kilometers on the other. We have 500,000 internally displaced people, 130,000 of them elderly or with special needs, and 30,000 of them in need of round-the-clock care. In Kharkiv, there are only 8 facilities that can provide this kind of care. Before the war, they had 3,000 residents in total. Now they have 6,000. They're overcrowded and there's nothing else available. Volunteers bring people to us from the front line. Local communities call us to ask if they can bring people here, and the regional centre also sends them to us. Every foundation, I've realised, helps once, for the sake of making a picture, telling the story of how good they are. But this continuity, keeping it going endlessly, is very hard. We have 15 staff members who lost their jobs during the war and found work here. They're very responsible, and we're deeply grateful that they care for our elderly residents, that they treat them with attention, respect, and empathy, real empathy, which is so important for us. The main thing is to give people maximum independence, to teach them to walk with crutches, or to move independently in a wheelchair. And I have a studio that designed this territory you see here. It's 1.3 hectares. I believe that if we build more accommodation to European standards, plus a restaurant, library, and administrative building, we could rent out rooms to people who can afford it. With that income, we could support those with very small pensions and no family to care for them.
Дуже важко, і треба якось, я думаю, знаходити, рішення цієї проблеми.
Yeah, so I was working for the Department of Veterans Affairs in the United States, working with veterans in the hospital, and this population that we have here is very similar to that. Although they're not combatants, they have a lot of the same issues: PTSD, injuries from the war, whether their house was blown up or they were injured in some other way. They have the stress issues, the anxiety issues, and a lot of the same medical conditions. So there is a big similarity. We try to make this a place where there's respect and where there's dignity and where people can live a somewhat normal life in spite of being 25 kilometers from the Russian border. We have a lot of people who either have learned to walk by themselves at home in the past, or they come here and they've been bedridden for 3 months or 3 years or 5 years, and they say, I never had any rehab, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the money for a hip replacement. So we have a number of people here who we have started to work with and who are now walking again. Very slowly, but they can walk again. We'd start doing stuff, there's not a word spoken, and he knows all the exercise, and then we're doing stuff with weights and bands, and we're working the biceps, and we're working the triceps, and we're working the shoulders, and we're working the chest, and the forearms, and the legs, doing things with the legs.
You don't really need words for that.
So you don't need words for that, and it's very smooth, and we chat about different things, and we'll use Google Translate, but it's a workout session for 30 minutes where he gets a great workout and he knows exactly what to do because we've been doing it for 2.5 years. Now when someone new comes in and they have had a hip fracture that was not repaired, or they've had a stroke and they've never had any rehab and they haven't been out of bed for 5 years. Now I brought weights, I brought different supplies. I've had a bunch of donors in the United States who said, hey, we want to be a part of this. We're going to get you exercise bands, we're going to get you wrist weights, we're going to get you devices for foot drop. It's great, being able to be productive and change someone's lives like this is just it's an incredible thing. Here, they're getting something that they have not gotten in the past, and that's people paying attention to them and saying, yeah, you've got this issue, let's work on it, let's figure it out. It doesn't matter if you don't have any money. Yeah. Let's figure this out, let's make it work, let's get your life back together again.
Southern Europe remains in the grip of fierce wildfires, with France, Spain, Portugal and the Balkans battling blazes fanned by scorching heat, strong winds and bone-dry conditions.
Firefighters are battling blazes across southern Europe on Tuesday in France, Spain, Portugal and Albania. The flames come due to the heat wave, as well as dry conditions and windy weather, which has all helped fuel the spread. In southern France, crews in Saint-Vallier continued to tackle hotspots from one of the nation's largest fires since 1949. The blaze, which began on the 5th of August, has burned 16,000 hectares, killed one person, injured 25, and destroyed dozens of homes. Authorities warned the risk of reignition remains high, linking its severity to climate change. In Spain, lightning ignited a wildfire north of Madrid late on Monday, forcing people to evacuate from their homes in Soto de Viñuelas and Fuente el Fresno. Winds of more than 70 kilometres per hour fanned the flames, gravely injuring one person and closing the M607 highway. In the south, more than 2,000 people, including tourists, had to flee from Tarifa as a separate blaze tore through eucalyptus and pine forests in the Sierra de la Plata mountains amid a heat wave pushing temperatures to 42 degrees Celsius. Portugal faced a major outbreak in Trancoso, where nearly 700 firefighters have been battling since Saturday to contain the flames, worsened by high temperatures and strong winds. Around 52,000 hectares have burned nationwide this year. That's above the seasonal average. In Albania, helicopters and ground crews fought flames after a weekend surge of wildfires across the Balkans, where extreme heat and drought have left conditions ripe for more outbreaks.
We'll be back after a short break. Stay with us.
The Turkish capital of Ankara, a city of policymakers, diplomats and 250,000 university students.
And we're partnering with Ankara Yildirim Bozayat University, speaking to 3 leading professors from the areas of law, diplomacy and international relations.
Exploring how and why the very fundamentals of diplomacy are being transformed.
Everything is faster, everything is more efficient, and everything is more effective now. Carry on this idea that there is more to share than fight for.
Why diplomacy is needed? It's the language of peace. That's why it creates the trust between the nations. Arts and sciences has a profound way for enhancing, for fueling the cultural diplomacy.
In this technopolar world, are nation states, organizations, world leaders arguing more?
Because of the extraterritorial application of those technology, there is no single authority in this game.
And of course, as always on A News Talk, speaking to an amazing group of students.
So join us for what promises to be an insightful conversation, which will be broadcast across all A News platforms.
I want my city to be newest, coolest, sexiest new resort city in the world. And that's my goal.
I'll never be
develop tourism in any country, it's going to be much easier to do it if you have casinos as part of your entertainment industry. Our casino will be the largest in Europe and 5th largest in the world.
Welcome to Dreamfest 2025. Are you ready?
Let's go! It's on my mind. It's in my heart.
Baku! We'll be ready when the curtain falls. Feel my heart beating when the crowd calls.
Every year we keep waiting for this festival.
Because it has a pure energy.
First time performing in my country, I feel amazing.
I've been coming here the last 25 years. It's just wow.
I love the city, I like the people.
I'm so happy to be here.
When I come on the stage, they will have to dance.
There's a lot of cool stuff that's been done. We're going to have an amazing show.
Welcome to Azerbaijan. Welcome to Seabreeze.
Welcome back to A News. Let's begin by taking a closer look at the meeting in Alaska and how it may shape the future of the war in Ukraine. As Presidents Trump and Putin prepare to meet in Alaska to discuss the war in Ukraine, questions remain about Ukraine's role and the potential impact on the ongoing conflict. Now, to discuss this, we are joined by Rudolf Mikhovich from Ukraine. Mr. Mikhovich, welcome and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, John.
Rudolf, President Trump has said President Zelensky could attend the Alaska meeting with President Putin. From your perspective, how important is Ukraine's direct presence at the table?
I think it's extremely important because a conversation about Ukraine without Ukraine is not possible. Yes, President Trump gave a clear understanding that he has pressure on Ukraine and he has cards, as he liked to talk. He can take out weapon support, intelligent resources. So, yes, it's very important. But without Ukraine on the table, with Zelensky or European partners, it's not going to be a final decision. You cannot stop a war with only one country negotiating.
But President Trump's decision to hold this meeting in a one-on-one format with Russia's President Vladimir Putin, and how might that affect the outcome?
I think it was a wish of Putin, because from my perspective, the Putin goal is to bargain and to trying to have more time. Because he definitely doesn't plan to stop the war. You hear his plans, you hear his offers. So it's like, give us territory, Donetsk region, and let's stop the war on the line. He didn't tell, like, give us Donetsk region and we will give you Zaporizhia and Kherson. No. So obviously Ukraine will not accept this plan because it's not a peace plan, it's a capitulation plan, and we can give up territories without help of Trump. We already talked about this many times. So basically Putin's trying to bargain or wasting more time. So yeah, now they're going to have a meeting with Putin and Trump. It's a big victory. Then they're going to have with Zelensky. But in the end of the day, they're not going to stop the war. One of their goals is to put conflict between Trump and Zelensky. You already heard that Trump is not very liking that constitution in Ukraine has to be fixed because this war is horrible and etc. From our perspective, it's very important that Ukraine was just heard, but without Ukraine, there would not any decision.
Rudolf, some European leaders warn that territorial concessions would only encourage further aggression. Do you believe there is any room for compromise on territory?
It's a great question. It's a very hard question. So first of all, it's very similar situation as it was with Hitler and Czechoslovakia in 1938 when Chamberlain came to London with a paper of peace and telling to the world that we not going to have war. And you know what happened, everyone knows. And I believe it's going to be very similar. Trump can sell Donetsk region or any other Ukrainian territories, and then Putin will go further. Why? Second reason, because Donetsk region is very good built in the last year since 2014. So there are many military structures that help to have a good defense. And Putin knows it. And that's why he basically kills thousands of people to achieve a couple meters or kilometers in Donetsk region. So after Donetsk, there is a lot of fields, and that's much easier to occupy. Because you heard him. We're going to make a law that's going to forbid to attack Ukraine or Europe. It's funny because he didn't need a purpose or reasons to invade Ukraine the first time. So I don't think that any laws will stop him.
So from the U.S. perspective, what might President Trump see as a successful outcome from this meeting?
So I think for President Trump, it's pretty obvious that he needs any outcome. So ceasefire, peace by any price, at least by communication that right now in the media. Maybe he has a plan that is more deeper and he wants to push and put in another way. Personally, maybe he already made couple tries, but because obviously his goal is Nobel Prize for peace. He already talked about that many times. So he can give up Ukraine. But what I'm going to tell from Ukrainian perspective, doesn't matter what Trump is going to make, Putin's going to do. We will stand and we will fight even without American support. Right now, more than 70% is stopped by Ukrainian drones. We're going to fight, we're going to lose more people, but we're not going to negotiate by some ceasefire for 2 or 3 months, and then Putin is going to attack with bigger power. And then Trump is going to say, oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. But this is going to cost us, the government, more people, and more occupation. So for us, it's not a choice just to give up some territory and be okay with that.
Rudolf, as we know, the meeting excludes Europe for now, but how do you interpret this approach, and does it risk sidelining key allies?
I think this is showing of weakness of Europe, and they has to be more strong, more aggressive in their position. You can easily be excluded from conversation if you don't have strong position. And I think the Europe is too weak to have a voice such strong that going to tell, no, we have to be on the table, because it's not only Ukrainian security, it's our security. More people in Europe understand that. But still, you have to have a strong position. You have to sacrifice something. Your economy, your budget, you have to show it, not only tell it. Trump has to understand that, okay, if Europe is not going to buy oil, gas in US, she will find other ways beside Russia and United States. There's big world, and they have to negotiate with Trump with the power. But right now we can see definitely that they are more polite approach.
So what's your view on Europe's current role in the peace process? Do you think that they are doing enough to support Ukraine diplomatically?
Actually, from Europe position, our position is going to be very much depend on. Why? As you heard, we can stand without US support. It's going to cost us much more. They supplied 31 Abrams. It's not a big. Petros, very important. Secret intelligence, also very important. But if Europe is going to invest not millions, but $1 billion in Ukrainian drone manufacturing, we can defeat Putin. Orban said that, haha, it's funny, and no one defeated Russia in history. It's a lie. Small Finland could stop Russia in their war in previous century. And we can do it too. We saw it. So with Ukrainian drone, with the big economic support of Europe, we can stop Putin. But we need Europe to be more involved and to be more aggressive, not just to advices or Twitter messages. They has to be supported with actions.
Rudolf Mihovich, thank you very much for this discussion. We truly appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
After the break, we'll be back with the key stories shaping the region. See you soon.
Corridors are of great value to us. Construction works are being carried out on the Azerbaijani side, both rail and road.
President Aliyev and his team are working very intensively. We are also in close cooperation.
It will shorten the time from Central Asia to Europe.
The middle corridor doesn't end here. Here, it becomes a force.
This is not only about national defense. At the same time, the defense industry has now become a serious economic force.
Turkish states are reviving their defense establishments and making a big mark in history in the defense world.
When we look at Turkey's breakthroughs, defense industry and its strength within NATO, the merging of Turkey's power with that of the Turkic world means the emergence of an immense force.
We focus on paradigm-shifting, innovative fields. Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond. Welcome back to A News. Now let's take a closer look at the key developments shaping our region.
The situation is equally alarming in northwestern Turkey, where a fast-moving wildfire is sweeping through the province of Çanakkale. The blaze has already destroyed several homes and forced hundreds of residents to evacuate. Authorities have shut down key transport routes in the area.
Hundreds of residents were forced to evacuate their homes on Monday as a wildfire swept through forested areas near the center of Turkey's northwestern Çanakkale province. The blaze, fanned by strong winds and high temperatures, destroyed dozens of houses and vehicles, according to local authorities. Interior Minister reported that 187 people were rescued by sea and 161 by land. People had to flee a university campus, military facilities, and residential neighborhoods. More than 700 personnel, supported by planes, helicopters, and firefighting vehicles, were deployed to battle the flames.
It's a terrible incident. We've never experienced anything like this before. As you can see, houses, vehicles, everything burned down. May God help us.
Helicopters were seen scooping water from the Dardanelles Strait to douse hotspots, while police water cannons tackled blazes that reached residential buildings.
When we first arrived, my car and our house were slightly damaged. May God help everyone. Overall, we've survived a terrible disaster. Apparently, it's still ongoing.
The city's airport, a section of the highway, and parts of the strait were temporarily closed. The Turkish Meteorological Service reported temperatures of 33 degrees Celsius and wind speeds of up to 66 kilometers per hour, conditions that fueled the spread of the fire.
One of the well-known news platforms in the United States, the Newsmax television channel, has aired a special program dedicated to the Washington summit between the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia, mediated by President Donald Trump. The program discussed in detail the significance of the Washington meeting, its regional and global importance, as well as the role of the United States as a mediator. The guest of the program was Azerbaijan's ambassador to the United States, Khazar Ibrahim.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great. It was a historic moment. As my president said, it happened in the #1 capital in the world under the leadership of President Trump, who is a peacemaker. And it's quite notable that here, Azerbaijan and Armenia signed this joint declaration. And now the doors, windows, hearts, everything is open to have real peace in the region, to have it integrated not only with neighbors, but with the entire world. But we had a conflict for more than 30 years. We had lands under occupation, there were ethnic cleansings, there were a lot of refugees and IDPs who still cannot go back because of landmines. But what happened, all the negotiations in the last 30 years, negotiated, mediated by OSCE, didn't yield any positive results. And it's, I think, quite a diplomatic miracle that President Trump, within this very short period of time, managed to help us. Of course, we had direct negotiations with Armenia. That helped a lot, because when you talk to each other, that's very important, because it's, at the end of the day, it's you gonna live with each other. It's your people going to interact with each other. It's your leadership who are going to talk to each other. So that helped. But at the same time, when you have a statesman, a leader, and a peacemaker like Donald Trump, it always helped. And when he stepped up, now we are in a position when we have the documents and all the roads are open for peace and prosperity of the region.
On Monday, Kaja Kallas, the European Union's foreign affairs chief, spoke on the phone with the foreign ministers of Azerbaijan and Armenia. She praised the joint declaration signed by Azerbaijan, the United States and Armenia, welcomed the deal and plans to end the OSCE Minsk Group. She also discussed Azerbaijan-EU relations and security issues. On the same day, she spoke with Armenia's foreign minister Ararat Mirzoyan, who called the Washington agreements an important step and thanked the EU. They also talked about Armenia-EU cooperation and regional inclusion. These talks are key for peace and stability in the region. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan informed his Georgian counterpart Irakli Kobakidze about the results of negotiations held in Washington last week, the Armenian government's office reported. Pashinyan presented the outcomes of the August 8 talks in Washington, including a joint declaration to end the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. He thanked Kobakidze for publicly welcoming the agreements. The leaders stressed that peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia creates new opportunities for fostering the regional development. Armenian and Georgian prime ministers also discussed bilateral ties. Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan says ending conflicts in the region is the country's diplomatic priority. Speaking in Aksaray, he highlighted Ankara's role as a stabilizing force for neighboring states and its self-reliance in security matters. Fidan pointed to Turkey's broad diplomatic reach from the Middle East to Africa, the Balkans and the Asia-Pacific, focusing on a strong defense industry and counter-terrorism. He said this experience benefits other nations, citing work in Somalia as an example. Afghanistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is firing back at the new United Nations report that paints a negative picture of returning refugees and for women working with aid agencies. A statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs calls the UN findings baseless and warns of possible legal action. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
The United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan says some Afghans returning from Iran and Pakistan have faced torture and security threats. The Taliban rejects that, arguing the report relies on testimonies from just 49 people and ignores what it describes as the positive experiences of millions of others. The same report also confirms for the first time that Afghan women working for the UN and other agencies have received death threats from unidentified individuals. The Taliban insists its members are not involved and says an Interior Ministry investigation is underway. Though spokesman Abdul Mateen Khaneh told the Associated Press that no such threats exists. The UN says threats have forced it to adopt emergency safety measures. This comes against the backdrop of sweeping restrictions on women, such as bans on most jobs, including with NGOs and the UN, mandatory chador dress codes, and outright denial of access to public spaces. A previous UN report found that at least 1.4 million girls have been deliberately deprived of education under Taliban rule. Aid agencies say these policies have crippled humanitarian work. Allegation Kabul denies. Tamim Bahis reporting for A News from Kabul, Afghanistan.
Kazakhstan's city of Aktau has hosted the first Ülker International Short Film Festival. Last week, it brought together talent from across the Turkic world and showcased a total of 51 animated movies.
The International Organization of Turkic Culture hosted the Ülker International Short Film Festival in Aktau, the 2025 Turkic World Capital of Culture. The festival gathered filmmakers, young animators and cinema students from across the Turkic world, with participants from Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan and Tatarstan. The programme featured screenings, panel discussions and cultural performances, highlighting how cinema and animation can preserve and promote the shared heritage of Turkic nations. Exhibitions and displays showcase traditional art, photography and literature alongside the film events. The name Ülker refers to a guiding star cluster in Turkic mythology, long regarded as a cultural symbol among Turkic peoples. The three-day celebration concluded with an award ceremony honouring outstanding works from across the region.
After the break, we will take a closer look at whether Azerbaijan's unique diplomatic positioning and strategic alliances could realistically pave the way for breakthrough talks between Israel and Syria. See you soon.
I want my city to be newest, coolest, sexiest new resort city in the world. And that's my goal. If you want to develop tourism in any country, it's going to be much easier to do it if you have casinos as part of your entertainment industry. Our casino will be the largest in Europe and 5th largest in the world.
Welcome to Dreamfest 2025. Are you ready?
Let's go! It's on my mind. It's in my heart. Baku! We'll be ready when the curtain falls. Feel my heart beating when the crowd calls.
Every year we keep waiting for this festival.
Because it has a pure energy.
First time performing in my country, I feel amazing.
I've been coming here the last 25 years. It's just wow.
I love the city, I like the people.
I'm so happy to be here.
When I come on the stage, they will have to dance.
There's a lot of cool stuff that's been done. We're going to have an amazing show.
Welcome to Azerbaijan. Welcome to Seabreeze.
We are here in the Turkish capital of Ankara, a city of policymakers, diplomats, and 250,000 university students.
And we're partnering with Ankara Yildirim Beyazıt University, speaking to 3 leading professors from the areas of law, diplomacy and international relations.
Exploring how and why the very fundamentals of diplomacy are being transformed.
Everything is faster, everything is more efficient, and everything is more effective now. Carry on this idea that there is more to share than fight for.
Why diplomacy is needed? It's the language of peace. That's why. It creates the trust between the nations. Arts and sciences has a profound way for enhancing, for fueling the cultural diplomacy.
In this technopolar world, are nation states, organizations, world leaders arguing more?
Because of the extraterritorial application of those technology, there is no single authority in this game.
And of course, as always on A News Talk, speaking to an amazing group of students.
So join us for what promises to be an insightful conversation, which will be broadcast across all A News platforms.
Welcome back to A News. Now we will delve deeper into the geopolitical dynamics at play, exploring how Azerbaijan's energy diplomacy, close partnership with Turkey and pragmatic foreign policy might serve as credible tools in bridging the long-standing divide between Israel and Syria. The Jerusalem Post is highlighting Azerbaijan's potential role in mediating between Israel and Syria, citing Baku's balanced relations with both countries, its economic strength and its strategic ties to Turkey. Supporters say Azerbaijan's pragmatic and secular approach could offer a rare platform for historic dialogue in the region. Now, to unpack this, we are joined by prominent expert Ken van Lerland, a political expert joining us from Amsterdam, Netherlands. Mr. Lerland, welcome to the program.
Welcome. Yes, thank you very much.
Mr. Lerland, from Damascus' perspective, how credible is Azerbaijan as a neutral mediator between Israel and Syria, given its close defense ties with Israel?
Well, I think that's a very acceptable role, because Azerbaijan has played a role in the past in negotiating matters between Turkey and Israel. And it is absolutely necessary that there will be a lasting peace in Syria, because Syria is completely collapsed and destroyed. So it's important that somebody is in between as a mediator. Well, we prefer the Azerbaijani rather than the Qatari, because Azerbaijan is a very reliable partner and has a very good relationship with all the parties in that region. So I think that's a very viable position and desirable position.
So, Mr. Lerland, do you see Azerbaijan's good relations with the Muslim world as a real asset for building trust with Syria, or could it create suspicion in Israel?
Yes, absolutely, because we're all aiming for extending the Abraham Accords. That's a relationship between different countries with all kinds of minorities, with different religions, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, Druze as well. So Azerbaijan plays a very important role because it has a very good relationship with all its neighbors. And that's what we need, because we need peace, lasting peace, sustainable peace, and a relationship where we can build on for rebuilding the Syrian society and the economy. And that does not only count for Syria, but also for Lebanon. But also the relationship with Turkey is important to get lasting peace around the Turkish borders. So it's about time that we stop fighting and that somebody takes up the helm to put the negotiations to the table, and that we start building relationships again, that we can rebuild our economies.
So Baku has proposed potential energy and infrastructure projects for Syria. Could such economic incentives realistically influence Syria's willingness to engage in dialogue?
Yeah, but they need a dialogue because their economy is completely collapsed. The country is collapsed. Millions of Syrians have escaped the country. They emigrated or they just fled. There's nothing anymore in Syria. You know, their economy has a GDP of 20 billion. Israel has an economy, a GDP of 500 billion. I mean, we have all the technology, we have, and the will to build a lasting peace with Syria and give peace a chance. And Azerbaijan has proven in the past to play a very important role to put Muslims, Christians, and Jews around the table. And that is that's a unique situation that we can profit from, take advantage of.
Yes, some suggest Azerbaijan's role could be similar to past mediators like Norway or Switzerland. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, Europe's game is over. You know, don't bring Europeans anymore to the table. We've seen for more than 100 years what kind of results we got out of that. It's good that local players, the Arabs, and the Israelis, the Christians, and so many other people, that we solve our own problems, that we sit around the table. We don't need the Europeans anymore. We do it ourselves. We better walk alone.
Mr. Lerland, Azerbaijan also has a strategic alliance with Turkey. Could Ankara's involvement through Baku be seen as a positive step, or would it complicate matters for Syria?
No. No, you know, Azerbaijan has played a very important role in bringing Israel and Turkey together. We've seen that the economy of both countries are flourishing. Yes, you know, Mr. Erdogan plays sometimes a bit strange role, but you know, at the end of the day, we see that the economies are flourishing, and we can all benefit from that. The Turks can have a very imminent role in Syria, as long as the borders are safe for everybody, and also to take care of Lebanon, that the Lebanese are part of the Abraham Accords, Syria part of the Abraham Accords, but even Turkey would join the Abraham Accords in building a lasting peace in that region.
So from Israel's security standpoint, could a Baku-hosted peace process offer more privacy and less political pressure than talks in Washington or Geneva?
Well, Washington is very important in this game. The Americans did play a different role. But, you know, if the local players in that region take initiative to seize all the differences and to build a relationship that the Americans could facilitate financially, but also militarily, in bringing everything together. But a local player like Azerbaijan is important to bridge all the differences, because we're all the same people. We are each other's neighbors, and we need an important player. It's a small player, but it's an important player that could bridge the differences, and that we can do it ourselves. And the Americans can facilitate it at the end, that we can sign the Abraham Accords for everybody. The Jordans, they're already part of the Abraham Accords, but the Syrians are not. If the Syrians will sign, the Lebanese will sign, and so many others will sign, and then we build a lasting peace.
So if peace negotiations between Israel and Syria were to begin tomorrow in Baku, what would be the main trust-building measure you would want from Azerbaijan to prioritize?
It's for Israel important that we have a safeguard for our borders. That's important. Secondly, is that they will not transport any weapons and money anymore to Hezbollah in Lebanon. That they are trustful and that we can rely on them. And then we can start building a relationship where we can maybe in the near future open the borders and exchange economical exchange, that we can do business with each other, that the Druze, for example, as a minority in their country and our country, can be united again. And that we can, let's say, build step by step a serious relationship where they can benefit from. They can benefit more from it than we do, because Israel is an economical and a military power, and Syria is completely in shackles. So they can benefit from it, and we are willing to play with them, to dance with them.
Ken van Leland, thank you very much for talking to A News. We truly appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to A News for more.